and they can take crown.
Right. All right, 3 o'clock. Let's call the Human Services board meeting to order. First order of business, public comments. Are there any public comments from anybody from the public? Want to speak?
I'm public.
Yeah. Okay.
Just from here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, my name is Kelly Olson and I'm the Support Services Director for Damascus Road Project. We are the organization that works with women who've been trafficked or sexually exploited here in Oshkosh, Greater Winnebago County area, and even a little bit beyond. And I just wanted to pop by and introduce myself today. I'm trying to just make sure that everybody knows a little bit more about us, who we are and what we do. And just to kind of get on the same page with you guys as far as where we might fit in your neck of the woods, so to speak. We offer services to women who've been trafficked or sexually exploited. And that could include anybody of any age. I say women because most of our clients are women, but occasionally we do get a male client. Most of our clients are adults, but occasionally we do have somebody under 18 brought to us too. We are in the process of moving into a new building. Right now we're in 404 building, just up the road, on the first floor. And our lease is going to be ending there shortly. And we just signed a lease for a building at 536 Bay Shore, effective yesterday. And we're in the process of leasing to purchase. And we have our funding to purchase the building. And we are applying for ARPA funding to be matching funding to help us with this transition. We're building into this a collaborative workspace for relationships with other services that are in the community. And I just want to take a minute to tell you about our similarities and differences. We serve women who have domestic violence as a piece of their puzzle, but it's not it's just a little piece. Homelessness, but just a little piece. Food insecurity, again, just a little piece. And all of them need social services. And we love our relationships and partnerships with the organizations that serve those clients throughout the community. But we're the blanket that overarches all of them, that specializes in human trafficking, in the trauma that's akin to military veteran that these women experience. And we partner with these organizations in order to serve them. No one else in the community specifically focuses on human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation as their main thing that they do. So our new building is going to offer some great new things for resources. We have a counselor, a healing garden, a boutique for clothing, a quiet room for one-on-one, a soft interview room for law enforcement, a shower and laundry facilities for women who aren't comfortable maybe utilizing those facilities at a shelter where they have to be in the company of men. We're partnering with organizations in the community like Nicolay Bank to work with teaching our women budgeting and finance. Mill City Church has got 2 certified people that are going to be teaching Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, so we can help women to learn how to live in the community. We're going to have a social enterprise so we can teach job readiness skills and then collaborate with already existing organizations throughout the community, building relationships and partnerships. And we also are excited to say that we're partnering with the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh and bringing interns in to help us with some of the additional things that we're bringing through programming wise. So I just wanted to kind of let you know a little bit about us, what we do, and be available to answer any questions you guys might have. But when I leave here, we are picking up a girl from the county building and we are transporting her to a long-term restoration program in Colorado, where she's going to begin a 2-year journey of healing. And so that's what's next. So we do an awful lot of unique things that aren't available anywhere else in the community, and excited to get into the HHS area and collaborate with you guys.
Any questions, Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does it matter how long the woman has been out of the traffic? Is it immediately after she's been rescued or escaped, or could it be some years down the road?
Both. Okay. Absolutely. We have women that have been out for a while. but still need the support services. Absolutely, because trauma doesn't disappear overnight. And that's something that we really need to be better at acknowledging and working with.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My question was similar, but more along the lines of, is there an end date?
I'm going to tell you no. I've been doing this, I'm in my 10th year. Lisa's been doing it for 15 now. And we still have relationships with women we've met at the beginning. This is definitely a very relational organization. And that's what keeps us in the lives of people. When they struggle and have a setback, they can reach out, and there's no cost to them for anything. So.
Yep.
I just want to say, with your organization, I've known about your organization for quite some time, and you do some amazing work. And it really is a challenge, especially when it comes to housing some of these women. Like I've said before, if they go to Christine Ann, they tend to recruit. If they go to David Tate, they tend to be recruited. But another thing that I'm not sure if I heard or not is the programming and the education piece that you do. I went through one of your education trainings to let people know what to look for as far as sex trafficking, and this is indeed here. This is not just a big city problem, and I just really appreciate not only your advocacy, but your education that's available for people, free of charge, by the way. I did not have to pay to go to my training for Damascus Roads, and I just really appreciate that aspect of the educational piece that you do as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we do professional education as well as community education. So we train law enforcement, attorneys, probation and parole, social services, social workers, sexual assault nurse examiners and such, but also regular folks that are just in community. Last Thursday, we had a training where we had over 50 people come. 50 community members from Winnebago County that wanted to know more. So really cool. Yeah.
And I just want to share, I'm Annette, I'm our child welfare manager, and I've worked with Lisa a couple times about
Yes.
some youth. So you guys have helped us when we have some youth in common or some youth that we're sending your way
I
just for
recall
some extra help.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
We're still
thank you.
working with her today. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it's a great partnership.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Well, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you guys for your time. Off to Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safe
Safe
travels.
Safe travels.
Thanks for coming, Kelly.
Bye-bye.
All right, program.
Is everybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom? Want to have any
There was
questions?
one question asking for the name of the organization again, and I'm emailing
Okay,
her.
thank you, thank you. Programs changed a little bit this month. This year we got the county exec.
John's
Yeah.
our program today.
You're our program today.
Make it entertaining.
Make it entertaining. Well, we've had a lot of growth over the last year. There's one thing that we're gonna see in this budget for human services that looks maybe scary to some, but it shouldn't. There is going to be a lot of TO changes. We are proposing a lot of people to join our human services table organization. A lot, and the good news is that the levy impact is not harsh. Most of these, we have gotten creative and we found revenues to cover a lot of these positions, which is, you'll notice the levy impact did not skyrocket. And there's a couple reasons for this. Number one, a lot of our partners out there, they're struggling too. And Lutheran Social Services was struggling to staff people, which is why we took over a shelter care facility. So while some of these nonprofits are struggling, we still have to make sure these people are getting the services they need. So we have more control over it if we bring it in-house to do it. So before I get too far into that, either Bill or Heather, if you want to explain a little bit more of those TO.
Yeah, so the big question was what's changed since you all finished the budget and then gave it to John in the end of, well, it was 16th or so of July. We finished it. And so in that budget, we had a zero levy impact and about 20.5 positions that we included in the budget. All of those positions were positions that were actually working for Winnebago County either, but not on a permanent full-time basis. They were part-time that converted to full-time. They were project positions, which are temporary, time-limited, converted to permanent, or the other group was the Lutheran Social Services folks that was working for Beth, doing children's long-term support. That Beth's proposal was to bring that group that was LSS employees in-house and have them be Winnebago County. So all of this stuff is what you already have heard about. It was 20.5 positions. And the impact when we got done was about $89,000, which we absorbed into the budget, so we had a zero levy. Since then, I went to John, and we've had many discussions over many weeks. Things change almost weekly because we get updates on staff costs, and sometimes there's some errors in the budgeting process. We have to correct those. So the new total is $110,000 of new levy. So really, in a big budget of ours, which is 48 million, 110,000 is a very small amount. That 110,000 that got added, and thanks to John, it was added. There was 75,000 for half of a position I'll talk to you about in a minute. And then the other 35,000 was for a van replacement, which we had held off 2 years on replacing vans. So basically, we typically try to replace a van a year, but John asked us to hold off on that. And so we waited, and now we got it this year. So we got the van in the budget with new levy, and we've got half a position that I'll talk to you about now. So since the time that we did the budget, we had some additional staff requests. And they are found, and you have them in front of you under this sheet, which is the staff sheet. I think you have that in your packet. It's called Human Services 2024 New Position Request Summary. I want you to turn to the second page. So not the cover, but second page, which starts with SUD supervisor. You see that? See where it says SUD supervisor?
Not everybody has.
Oh, you don't have it.
Sorry, just raise it, I'll make some copies.
Yep, these could be copies. They should have come in the mail, like yes, Friday.
How many? Who needs?
I did.
1, 2, 3.
Do you need?
I have one
was
sitting
here.
You always get an extra.
Yeah, I can give
Can
them
have
mine
mine.
and share with.
Here's one.
Yeah, just.
So we'll pass around our copies that we have to you, and then we'll see if we can distribute them enough so that Karen needs a copy. Does anybody have, of my managers, does anybody have? a copy of it? You don't have a either? Okay.
I just got the budget.
A different agenda.
Well, this kind of explains, I'm just trying to explain a few changes in the budget.
Okay.
What's that?
Probably needs.
I got this.
Yeah.
So it's.
That's the rest of the
$100.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is 175, that's why.
You have.
Our proposed was.
Yeah, this is.
290.
295. It was 190. It was 18,190 last year. Last year's adopted budget in 2023 was 18,185.
Oh, yeah.
594,
Last year.
and this year's 24 proposed budget is 18,295.
290, right,
So it went up,
okay.
100, it went up 110.
109.99. 109? Yeah.
Rounding,
110, yeah, I see that now.
rounding. See, this is what you get when Janet's not here. You get bill rounding. Okay, so that's the problem. That's why Janet always says, you should probably wait, talk about numbers when I'm there. So yeah, so about 110,000. And I was just explaining where we got the new positions that you didn't hear about yet, and how those new positions only added 75,000 to the levy ask, which
Yeah.
John then approved,
Right.
because the rest of the costs are coming through changes that we're making with the revenues or expense.
Well, that's what it
So I'm kind of waiting to make sure that everybody who's still short.
Somebody gave me
Sub
one, so
supervisor.
who gets it back?
Okay, so are we all on here where it starts with site supervisor? Do you have one there?
No.
Yeah. Oh, there he is one. Then we'll be set. So it's on page 2. The reason I'm not going over page 1 is because you already saw that in the budget that you adopted. So I could go back over them again, but I'm just going through the new ones since the budget that you proposed went to John.
That question, so I think I missed that one, because I wasn't here until I was
Yeah.
EAA, so I missed all that. That was, but the question I had was, and I don't even know if it has anything to do with this, but at the last meeting we had, and Nina, I think, I asked about when the budget, I said, is there any other needs that we had? At that time, no, never said there wasn't. And then now I see all these.
Okay, so all of these transpired literally in a couple weeks leading up to the finalization of the budget. So we were kicking around ideas at that time, but we hadn't finalized our own ask at that point. So, and we weren't gonna ask for anything until we knew we could support it or not support it. So, if you start with SUD supervisor, so this is an added request that from behavioral health, because we need a supervisor and trainer of people who are new in the field. We've been hiring a lot of new substance abuse counselors who don't have any experience, and we're now training them. We're becoming a training institution. And so what we really thought was important is that we have a substance use supervisor who is a trainer. Someone who has got a lot of experience and then who can train these new folks. Yes.
So who was training them a year ago, 2 years ago?
So we've limped along with our other supervisors who have done some supervision and training in the past, but they have responsibilities across other parts of the department, not just the substance abuse area. So we have Amy Jeffers, who's the supervisor of the AODA group or a portion of it, but she is primarily focused on Connect right now, which is the court services, and she can do some training, but she can't do all of it. So we really felt that a substance abuse supervisor was important for us going forward, and not just a supervisor to supervise, but to train and to provide the 3,000, because you literally have to provide 3,000 hours of supervised experience to new substance use trainees.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of, and then multiply that by multiple people who need that number of hours. So one person can't do all that. So we added that, and we found the money to pay for that with additional Medicaid revenue, additional monies from operating while intoxicated driver assessments, and some additional funding from the opioid settlement funds.
Have those all been dispersed? At least the first.
Well,
the first packet.
The first settlement, which is not all of the settlements, there's like 2 or 3 different groups that are settling. But the first settlement is pretty much all spoken for at this point, although we did get a lot more money in the first year, so there's some extra monies.
There's a lot of payments through. And one of the things I'm trying to do is make sure that those reoccurring payments fund the Connect program as long as possible. Is what I want to do. And not only does it help with diversions, our goal, and Heather, let me know if I'm misspeaking here, is to get it upstream. More referral based. I don't think people should be in trouble with the law before we can help them. So how can we get direct referrals from police departments, I believe we're working with the fire department now and EMTs and other people to get people into this program to help them before it's necessarily a bond condition or something like that.
Okay.
So that was added without any new request for levy. Then the second position that came up was a deputy division manager for child welfare. We have a deputy division manager for behavioral health right now. And when Renee is primarily responsible for this, is that Renee reminds
Full
me.
responsibility.
No, primarily. Renee was informing me that, hey, Bill, you have to pay attention. The child welfare division is now 100 people. And in our divisional setup, 100 people is a lot of people for one division manager to manage. Not that people are the whole key to how much you have in a division, but the more people you have, the more things you have to monitor, the more services you're providing. So it was time. It was time to take a look at it. And of course, I resisted that at the beginning when we first went to you, because it was brought to my attention earlier in the year. But I said, I don't know, we got so many positions that we should probably hold off. And then it just kept coming back up and back up and back up. And it's like, okay, so we asked for it. And that's the one where we couldn't come up with the entire amount of internal changes to either adding revenue or decreasing expenses. And so when I went to John, I had a proposal that 75,000 would come from unexpended labor and not from new levy. And Mike Collard was not really in favor of that, as I remember. And I said, well, maybe we could take it out of foster care. And John said, no, he wanted to go ahead and take it out of levy. So I thank John profusely for that, because that was important.
I mean, it's important, and one of the things I know you talked about in the past is having a separate fund for, human services if something were to come up, and I don't want to steer that direction. My direction is we have a general fund for a reason. I mean, if something comes up, if there's a need or an expense that human services needs, they should be able to go to this committee and then bring it to P&F and then go to the board and ask for that. And what I think people want is a truer budget. And Bill, and credit to your team, I mean, you guys really put in the work to find this. I know it wasn't easy. And it's one of those things of, what do you do? How do you invest in more programs when we have to invest in people? Because what we were paying people wasn't enough to get people in the door, and how do we retain them? So we need a way to be able to recruit people to do the hard jobs that we do. So I think a lot of the credit came from your team and finding creative ways for either revenues or areas where we can make adjustments, and you did more than the mission was asked for. So that was the second. Okay, Becky.
So we're on the CSP supervisor.
We're not there quite there yet.
Oh, where are we?
He jumped over the deputy
We're
division.
down to the bottom of the page.
Yeah, he skipped
Sorry.
over.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to take.
missed that part.
I was trying to take them in order of when they came up as opposed to the order on the page. So I apologize. We're talking about the very last one on the bottom of the page.
Right.
The deputy child welfare manager.
And you have hired someone for this position? Or you just want to?
No,
Okay.
we don't.
Proposed in the budget.
It's proposed in the budget.
Yep.
Okay, so then we move back up.
Is that 100% levy? I'm
No,
confused.
no, it's half
Okay.
or less. It might even be a little bit
But
less than that.
there's nothing that you can bill in child welfare to pay for it, so it's gotta come out of the budget. We've been able to.
Okay.
See, the toughest part about child welfare division, and that will attest to this, is that nothing in child welfare has a Medicaid piece to it, so there's no revenue to be able to attach to a position like there would be in behavioral health or in long-term support. And so the only way that you can fund a position in child welfare is to cut an expense somewhere else and hope that you never have to have that expense. You try to, or add levy to get you to that position, which is the case for most departments in the county, by the way. Because a lot of departments in the county have no ability. That's why human services gets asked often to make greater sacrifices for the county, because we have the ability to generate a lot of third-party revenue. And because our expenses are so large, as we can, take less and hope that we don't have those expenses. So that's why we get asked to do the things that we've been asked to do over the last few years. So anyway, this one was important because we didn't really have the 75,000 other than unexpended labor, or to take it from foster care and hope and pray that we didn't have more foster care placements. But as Annette reminded me, that's kind of iffy to actually take the money from there, because we never know when we're gonna have foster care placement. So John said, it's important, we're gonna give you the 75,000, which I'm like, really? I think my first response was, really? Because I'm very happy about that, because that makes sense.
So I'm still confused about where the funding is coming from. Because is it coming from a reduction in the foster care line plus levy, or is
Yes.
all of it coming from levy?
Yes. So it is still partially coming from foster care funding,
Okay,
but not totally from foster care funding.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure. And then if we go back up to lines now, 2, 3, 4, and 5, excuse me, lines 2, which is CSP supervisor, which is actually incorrect. It is supposed to be CCS, not CSP. CSP is our community support program for adults, and CCS is our comprehensive community services for kids. So Janet just made a slight error there.
So it's CCS or
It's
CCS?
supposed to be CCS. supervisor.
CCS.
Yeah, because when you read the description, well,
Modify.
it is, I'm looking
still
at the
not-
wrong one. I'm looking at the wrong one. I apologize.
So it's still, this is CSP.
Okay. Scratch.
We have a lot of
everything.
acronyms.
Did we, I
So
thought we
we're gonna
included this.
modify the position to make it a lead position to the CSP supervisor and then move the case managers. The CCS.
Okay, so there's another,
we already
there's another
have-
location
We
for
already
lead
have
here.
this position, we're tweaking.
Okay, so we're just adding the case managers and the psychotherapists?
Yep, and
7?
this, and the supervisor position is a modification from a lead to supervisor versus. a
Okay,
brand
is
new
that
position.
the CSP?
Yes,
Yeah, this,
Okay.
that was the bump
So,
up, yep.
so the CSP is correctly titled, but it includes both a piece of the community support.
so
kids
they're gonna
and-
take over all of the community support program and then CCS will take on more than CCS. So we can keep the programs separated.
Okay, so we didn't ask for a supervisor position.
We asked for this supervisor position, we just modified the lead.
Of an existing person. So we already have the position, but we
Okay.
wanna make this person, or the position, a supervisor.
Oh,
Following
so
that?
we're promoting a lead to a supervisor
Correct.
to cover it? Okay,
Yep.
So that's what
Making
we're
it
doing.
official.
Still CSP.
Yes, and it's also including CCS, which is the reason for the next two.
Yeah.
The next two categories
Okay.
of case manager and,
Hopefully this
I
makes
just got
sense this
confused
time.
because I thought we
Okay.
were hiring a pure CCS supervisor, and what we did was we took a lead and we
It is supervisor.
added
Right.
both parts to it, so, okay. And we,
I feel if you're doing the position, you should be paid as that position. And if, when we use a lead, we're
Coaching.
we're asking somebody to do more than we're paying them to do, and I don't feel that's right. So if you're acting as a supervisor, you should be paid as a supervisor. Is that right? Right.
yeah, and we're adding additional Medicaid because we can get some Medicaid reimbursement for that, so we're good. Okay, so the next two are when you see the 4 and the 3 after case manager 4 and psychotherapist 3, that doesn't mean they're level, that means numbers of folks we're asking for. So
4
this,
case managers.
4 case managers
Right.
and 3 additional therapists.
And
And
these were new from the budget that you passed. These were ads.
so these are positions that we already have 2 teams in-house doing this exact work. What we discovered earlier this year and was made clear to me is that we have a number of child welfare families that are receiving none of these services. And it is not something that we can have half of the families receiving CCS services and the other half not receiving any that are eligible. So in order to fix that, we have one of 2 options. One is to contract with an outside agency to do the work for us, which is what we kind of contemplated for a good chunk of this year, was just having a contract with an outside agency. And so we were kind of gearing toward that even during our discussions with the budget. And then I had a heart-to-heart with Heather, and Heather convinced me that it really should be 3 inside departments, or 3 inside teams, not 2 inside teams and 1 outside contracted team, because there will be problems with making sure that the consistency is there. There'll be problems with us doing one thing and the other groups doing another thing. And lastly, outside agencies are going to struggle with keeping and hiring and retaining. And what most of our outside agencies have been doing is they've been telling us, if we stay in business with you, we're going to need more money. So the other problem is going to be how much more money over time are we going to have to pay an outside agency? This is a much cleaner, much more consistent way of providing this service. Since we're already doing it with 2 teams, why not have a 3rd team inside? Now, what was my hesitancy? The total number of people. which is, and those of you who have been around the board for a number of years know that upwards of 29, 30 new position requests in 1 year from one department is gonna blow some people's minds. It's gonna raise some people's eyebrows. And so I was very reluctant to go there, any higher than what we are, because we're already at 20 and a half positions at the time we submitted the budget. But because of my internal staff and because of all the things that were happening at the time, we just made a decision, let's go for it, let's request it. I presented this to John and Mike Collard a few weeks ago. They needed to think about it. They were thinking about it, and as of, they were still thinking about it and contemplating it as of a week ago Friday or so.
Yeah, I mean, we had to analyze it and make sure the revenues would be there. And then when we could confirm the revenues would be there, that's what made sense. And it didn't make sense. What didn't make sense to me is if we have 3 teams out there, it should be consistent. It should be, so we make sure that all these kids are getting the level of service that they absolutely need. And what we found with some of our contractors is that when they're short-staffed, it's the kids that suffer. So we have to make sure we get there. And you'll see a couple things throughout the budget that you'll see in the line here, where even how we charge computer licensing and things go up. For a lot of times, we were using tax levy to pay 100% for a computer and child support, for instance, where the state will cover 66% of that. So while we're trying to take a look at these things comprehensively countywide, where are the things that we're sticking tax levy into that we shouldn't be sticking tax levy into? And one of the reasons that we've been really looking at programming and how we do this and how we separate it. So when we, Heather, your idea, when we looked at this, we're like, yeah, this can be covered. This makes sense. There's more revenue to bring into this. That I think it only made sense. So again, that was your team working with our team to make sure that the revenues were there and that that we can afford this, not just for this year, but long term.
So these 4 case manager positions are completely reimbursed to the county through medical assistance?
Right.
Is that what this
Yeah,
is
they're
telling me?
100%, they're 100% reimbursed.
Thank you.
So if you look at, now this is a different sheet altogether, but this is one that Janet made. It's called significant changes of the 23 adopted budget. You guys all have that. Because this is the short, like, where did we end up and where's the money? This isn't the positions now, this is the money. So she's done a nice job of putting here, if you start at the top, it starts with 2023 levy. Okay, so everybody see that? Top of the page, 2023 levy, 18,185,594. And then she goes through the significant changes in our request, and she goes down the line. The first ones are revenues. So where you see the parentheses and it's in the revenue, it means that there's more revenue. That's always boggled my mind that when I was kind of like doing accounting, it was like, if you have something in parentheses, that means something is missing, like it's going away. Actually, in the revenue section,
But what revenue?
In the red.
Right.
in the revenue, the parentheses mean more revenue. Okay, so you see at first we're getting almost 3.8, we're 3.8 and some change on intergovernmental revenues that are coming in for a variety of purposes there. You can see that we're getting an increase in some third-party reimbursement, client share costs, and then miscellaneous revenues, some additional transfers from the neighborhood investment grant and opioid funds. That's listed. And then when it goes to expenses. And so the expense changes are the additional labor, which is 5.2 million in new labor. And that means, I think the new labor adds and the new labor increases in terms of, our ongoing expenses for labor. And then travel went up by 57,000 due to auto allowance increases and some other things there. You can read it. Capital, we added the 35,000 for the one van replacement. And then operating expenses, adjustments in various line items, 27,000. And I'm not sure, it was just adjustments in whatever else, and Janet didn't list them all. Wasn't a big amount. So that means that the new total for levy is 18,295,593. So basically 109, 109.99, what did you say it was?
Yeah. Yep.
Or no, 10,999.
99.
10,999. If Jeff were here, he'd give me a really hard time about my numbers. So 10,999 is the increase in the levy, which John in his budget has put in there. So it's not a reduction of any amount of money, it was actually an addition.
I thought you said 110,000.
It's a
110,000.
110,000.
99.
Okay, not 10,000.
Right,
110,000.
110,000,
99.
or
Right.
$1 short. So that's the money difference, and those are the explanation of the new positions.
Were you able to convince John to give us a little bit more on a vehicle, so there's a step, so short people can get in it? And so that when you touch the door, it will actually close. You have to like somehow get in, then get out and get the door started, then get back in again. Just two improvements on two luxury items, a step and a door that you can actually.
And I was
Automatic
talking with Karen about
Yeah.
how we have to get it from the state bid list,
Me
and they
too.
give
Yeah,
us
still.
the cheapest, kind of version basically possible. I mean, if we did that, we would probably have to do an aftermarket.
Which we can look at.
We
Get your foot
Which we
still,
could.
yeah.
We could
Yeah.
look at a step.
Provided we could get a vehicle. I mean, one of the things we looked at is a leasing program because it's the only way you can get vehicles. That's another thing we wanna really take a
Is
look
that because
at.
of the current strike? Because that's gonna end, isn't it?
Well, no, it's just supply chains. Supply chains are taking a long time, clearly. And we have an elevator that should have been fixed in
Did you
3
lose the
months.
elevator?
We are so close. I don't wanna
I've
talk
heard
about
this.
it. Right, but the supply chain issues
It's
are.
on there for an update.
Right, are one of the issues. We have the same thing with our highway department. Our fleet was old and
Yeah.
it's so hard for us to get a truck. That we wanted flexibility when a truck becomes available, another county cancels, that we could just say, all right, we want this truck.
Yeah, yeah.
And not wait the 2 months it takes. for the approval.
Cause a lot of times these vehicles aren't brand new vehicles,
Right, yep,
I know,
We're
I
not
know,
buying a brand new vehicle?
we are,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
it's new to us, yeah.
Stop it, Larry.
Well, no, I'm just saying when the states bought some vehicles or whatever, we get a vehicle that already has like 40,000-50,000 miles on it already.
Okay.
But it's new to us.
Right. And one thing I want to talk about significant changes, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
is
go
that even though the taxpayer investment, the levy investment has gone up roughly $110,000. The total investment has gone up because we were able to go after and find revenues. And really, I think that's what we have to do is we have to collaborate better with the state. Make sure that we're looking at all kinds of different funding options that we have, collaborate better with our partners. I mean, you're in Damascus Roads in here today. And I can't tell you the work that you did with the food shelters, the food banks. When we
They're
knew-
very appreciative.
Right, when we
very-
knew that the money was gonna kind of go back to pre-COVID levels, for us to be ahead of that. So it's not just what we invest in our budget, it's how we collaborate with all our partners out there in the community as well. And your team and everybody, I think, has been doing a fantastic job on that.
So I think we wanted to clarify for everybody that, since you adopted the budget, sent it to John, and we talked about it, the two major areas of change were we added positions that we found money for, except for the 75,000, that John decided to put in, or to his proposal is to use 75,000 levy, got us the van. And so we wanted to reassure people that there wasn't any cut. There wasn't any, Harold was at the budget meeting. Larry was gonna be at the budget meeting, but he was not able to. So in our case, pretty much what you heard was what you heard and adopted went to John. We just made some additional things that came up in between. And we wanted to present that to you today as to what changed. Anyway, whether John was here or not, that was gonna be my part in my director's report.
But I'm glad he's here.
And I want to add to that. You may remember in July, and I know you weren't here, Ralph. And we went through our budget, and we came in at the numbers that we were asked to come in at with 0% levy increase at that time. But I just want to remind you, I gave a little spiel about, please keep in mind we have a list this long of needs.
Yeah.
Of service needs, of personnel needs, of reorg needs, you know, that if it was up to us, we would do it differently. And we had not discussed those yet, because we were under like, we gotta meet our budget, and then, you know, and then we're gonna have some asks. And so I'm sure this does feel like, what, you know, you didn't talk about this before. We didn't know if the door was open yet, you know, to look at it, because we had to meet that first benchmark, if you're following that. And then we went to John and said, there's some other things we'd like to consider, can we consider it? And of course it was, well, what are you talking about, what are you looking at, and that's where we are.
Any question? Before I make my, remark to John, go ahead.
Okay, you want to go first?
No, go ahead. If you got a
I
question?
appreciate this, because I know at the time I asked if there was anything, I know there was more, I just was surprised that there wasn't any more at the time. So I'm glad there is. And this question always comes up to me, and in the last 2 years, I can't figure it out. With this extra surplus that we have, or whatever it is, that we have, that 3 million or whatever it is. You know, when you're talking now, you gotta add another 100,000 to the tax base. Why can't you just take it out of that and make it even? Or if you have more of those wishes you have, at a time when we have this pilot, because the years to come, they probably won't be there. It seemed to me it'd be more like the time to use some of that, rather than just put it in a general fund. And then say, no, we gotta start all over. But I mean, you've got that to reduce the tax levy. You can maybe open up some more that you need to get it done. I mean, I always wonder
So
what we
just, so you know, I mean, and I discussed this at our earlier budget meetings, is that we, in order to get to a zero levy target, we know that we're gonna have X amount for new costs for our salary and fringes going up. We have provider costs that are going up that we can't control. We have placements that maybe we didn't count on from years ago that now are starting to come back to roost. So when you see the 3 million is sitting there and we're not doing anything with it, in fact, that's incorrect. What we're doing is we're budgeting against that. We did this year for next year. We budgeted probably an extra 1.5 million to 1.8 million. If Janet were here, she'd tell me exactly how much it was, but somewhere between 1.5 million to 1.8 million that we basically shaved off of other accounts so that we could make this work. So our theory is that if we continue to do that, that eventually there is, even if we have extra funds at the end of the year, they offset our deficits from budgeting too lean, if that makes sense. So we are using the reserves, not the reserves, but we're using the monies that we can't typically know what we need to budget for, and we're guessing now that we're going to get those. So we are factoring those into our budget. And you will see this year, as I make the financial report, that our number this year for a surplus is considerably less than what it was last year at this time. And it should happen again next year.
Yeah, if I can address that, that's one of the things I think me and Bill have teeter-tottered a little bit through my first 2 years, is that I think sometimes human services get beat up on, you know, when they have a $3 million surplus, right? And it doesn't mean that you didn't, it could have easily been a zero. The difference is the placement in Lincoln Hills. Like if you have a placement in Lincoln Hills, you're talking how much a day on that?
$1,200 a day.
Right, it's $1,200 a day. So for you know, just average two placements, you have 2 placements, that money could be gone real quick. And there was a hesitancy for a long time because the county board had the thought process of, you know, we're just gonna say no. So for us to really find some of this revenues, because you also found the revenues for the wage adjustments that we gave to everybody else. Instead of putting in there a budgeted an annual 1 year of what Lincoln Hills would cost us, I said, I challenge you to, all right, give me 2 months, because that's how long it's gonna take us to go to the county board and ask them for more money on a placement. You have to trust the county board enough to say, yes, we're going to fund you this, because we know it, and not pad it, because if you pad it, then you get this question of why do you always have a $2 million surplus? So, and I think you and the team have been doing a good job of making sure that we're actually predicting what revenues we're gonna get, getting it closer to the belt so that human services doesn't get this connotation that they're wasting tax dollars, because I don't think you are. Like, But when you budget for an entire year of Lincoln Hills, at the end of the year, that could be quite a bit of a surplus, at the end, which goes back into the general fund, by the way.
So I'm just trying to address Ralph's question, which is,
Right.
you know, we seem to have this year after year. I'm amazed by that too. I'm amazed by how many years, even though we trimmed the budget down every single year, even before John got here, we were trimming the budget down, thinking, oh, the end of all of this excess revenue is gonna happen and we're gonna balance out. We're gonna finally hit zero. And that was the theory, and it kept not happening, and we kept getting more surplus years because different things actually, in some years, it was because we saved money that we didn't think we are gonna save on our budgets. In other years, it was because the feds and the state dropped more cash on us at the end of the year.
Always.
And my answer is, I could say no. I could say, we don't want your money, and it'll go back to Washington, it'll go back to Madison, but I don't think anybody, we'd rather have it in a general fund than go back there.
But some of our surplus money comes 2 years ago. I mean, it doesn't always
Yeah,
come in
some
that
comes from
same
2.5
year.
years
Sometimes
ago,
it,
year and a
all of
half.
a sudden, 2 years ago, now we get this money back, so it's kind of
Right,
like.
and you can't,
we
you
never
can't
know.
budget for things you don't know, so that's why it always happens. But I will say that I think we are headed for a break-even budget. I don't know if it's gonna happen next year quite, might be in 25. But we are, and I've advised John that if we keep budgeting this way, eventually the extra funding from the feds and the state are gonna go away, and they're scheduled to go away at the end of 24. The feds have already put us on notice. No exceptional payments, no extra Medicaid funding, none of this stuff. It's gonna be the end is 24, end of 24. Same thing with the state. So if that happens, budget year 25, which is not next year, but the year after, that year is gonna be particularly rough because we're gonna go back to like 2019 rates on things. And so then we will really find out, like, do we have any extra levy left over, or are we now into a zero, or are we into a deficit? So the short answer is, we are using the money, Ralph. We are using it because we're budgeting.
I can't understand all that, but let's just say, at the end of this year.
Yep.
There's 2 million left, right?
Yep.
Where does that go? Goes to the general fund, right?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about, see, the exact same thing. It's going to general fund, and you can use it wherever you want.
No, you could use it.
Okay, I know, okay.
Right.
Let's put the.
I'm not gonna record, but see, we talked at one time of creating our own fund balance, but then John and Finance
Right.
says, no, they don't wanna do that.
We have 18 different fund
We could've
balances in
banked
the
that
county.
2
We shouldn't
million
have
dollars.
18 funds.
I think we should have 19, right?
Right, I think we should have one. That's my thought. I mean, even though we have some of these enterprise funds, but there are some things that should be statutorily separated, like solid waste. It's different, that goes off of tipping fees, it's not tax levy, so I agree with that. But some of these other, like a technology replacement fund, that we shouldn't have that. That should be charged to departments. We should have one. It should be a relationship between the administrators and department heads and the county board, so that when we do need these funds, we can come and ask for them. And that's why our conversation of, can we have a human services fund? That's why I said no.
No,
Right.
Is there ever a situation that could come up where there would be a need in the community, either by an individual or a family or a group? I'm not being, whatever, where there's a need that should be met by someone. The most obvious solution would be human services, but there's just no money and we would need it now. Is there?
If it fits within a parameter of what would be a human services mission, we could move some money around to do that without your permission. But if it was something outside of what we normally do, we would come to you with a resolution or a request to do that. We could still consider it, but it would have to come to you to consider it.
But there's no emergency situation that could be covered. And we know Renee, since Christmas, has worn a cape. We know that she had a cape for Christmas and she solved all of our problems.
But see, the thing is, if they're a client of ours already, we have a lot more ability to move some money in that direction than if they're a client or someone in the community that we haven't served.
I don't know, a disaster
I
happens.
think
don't know,
it depends
something.
on what it is. So in an emergency situation, yes, I can sign an emergency declaration, which we did last December, right?
Okay,
And there's a reason it was defined homeless shelter was gonna close, and the homeless
Right.
shelter was closed, we had to do what we
We
had
had
to
to
do.
do something.
Right.
And it was freezing,
Right, but
below freezing.
as long as it's in the same object code, there are ways, as long as we're using it for the same purpose, for example, when the food share was going to drop drastically, we were able to reach out to food pantries ahead of time and get them some emergency funding to prepare them for the strain they were about to see on food pantries when food share went down to pre-pandemic levels. So we do have some flexibility to move on certain people or certain entities in the county. But other than that, it's really hard. I mean, we can't, let's say if somebody needs a new house, we can't just do that for them, or,
Yeah.
right, we can't, but that's where the partnerships and the collaborations, because when you have those strong connections with your other nonprofits and your faith-based community, they can. They're the ones that can move, but that's why we have to be on the same page, collaborate and communicate, so we can say the things that we can't move on today.
Exactly.
There's other people that can, and can we rally the
See,
troops?
we might not be able to do it, but we could prefer maybe AVOCAP to do it if it's a housing or rental or something, just,
Well, there's a Red Cross that takes care
right,
of.
but we got other
emergencies
agencies
for
that we
free.
can connect with to help with that. That's, Becky, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for being here this afternoon. I'm really pleased to hear that we have worked together to maximize funding from other resources. It's important that money owed to Winnebago County comes back to Winnebago County and gets put to work here. So I'm really happy to hear that. It was really something that you said at the last county board meeting that raised my ears and set them on fire. And you had mentioned that was something to the effect of, I didn't think $1.8 million in new people was necessary in human resources. And I went, wait a minute, that's all medical assistance funds. Why wouldn't we take that money? And so I'm glad we got that out in the open. And
Yeah.
And so this is a really helpful document. And we also received a copy of, like, I assume it's a page from the executive budget book that will be presented to the county board. And I like the setup. I like how that appears. It helps me understand more where money is coming from, and how it's being allocated.
No, I appreciate that, and I think that's the direction we're trying to go for the whole county. I mean, that's the purpose of the priority-based budgeting, the purpose of some of these management analysts that I've been asking for, because that's exactly what we should be doing, making sure that we're maximizing revenues. Why would we be using tax levy for a computer that would be paid for by the state? And you're right, this is money that our taxpayers are giving to the state, so we have to do our job to make sure that we are maximizing what is owed back to our taxpayers. 100% accurate. And how do we do this countywide? How do we work together as a team instead of having human services budget being against the health budget, against child support budget, against emergency management budget, against the sheriff's budget? How do we look at it as one budget together? And I think we're heading the right direction.
So I do have a follow-up question. Since these positions are being presented as part of the budget, am I understanding that also requires a change to the table of organization for the county?
Right, so how it works, Mike Keller just told us that today, that there's a presentation to the PNF committee
Yes, on the
on
agenda.
Thursday that'll include
Not action items.
not action, but an explanation of all the changes to the table of organizations, which this list here will include. These are changes to the table of organization.
Okay, so this document will appear.
It'll be a bigger document with all of the positions in the county. And so if PNF or the county board later during the 3-day hearings, if they ask about changes to table of organization, then this is our piece of it, but there's all of the other table of organization changes for the entire county.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I'll be there during Thursday's meeting at PNF. I'll be there at the budget hearings, and if people come up with, well, how many people are you adding, Bill, and why are you adding them? And where's the money coming from, I'll be there to answer those things. And I'd also appreciate those of you who are county board members, so that you can, so you know now that we're asking for a lot of positions,
Yeah.
but with very little new money. Essentially, $75,000 of levy goes into all of these positions. The rest of it basically was coming from either Medicaid revenue, changes in how we do things, reduction in expenses. And so when they go to look at impact of these positions, it's $75,000. If you look at it from the perspective of, yes, but we're adding 29, 30 new positions to the county, yes, we are, but we're also doing that with the knowledge that we need to have the funding still follow them. And if in future years, the money doesn't follow the way we want it to, we'll look at having to do what we need to do in order to make that still happen, or if it doesn't happen, we may need to look at reversing course on some of those positions. So we know that.
And does the funding that's included here, does that also cover creating space for these folks to work?
So space is for 2/3 of them, well, not to say 2/3, but for a number of them, the space is already being occupied by people who are working here. There are new spaces that will need to be created, but some of them are going to be shared spaces. Some of them are going to be hotel spaces, which means that they're going to be partially working from home and partially working here. And in the case of some of Beth's group, we are looking at some rental space.
And how about the equipment?
The
For the
equipment is all-
space.
The equipment is all covered in the cost too.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's
Yep.
all here.
Yep,
And then does the table of organization just get approved as part of the whole budget, or is that a
Correct.
separate
Yep.
item?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
and to that point, a majority vote, and during deliberations after the budget is done, my part is done. So it's really up to this committee to defend the positions, if they become in question. Well, there will be nothing I can do. So I would just really want to make sure that you guys understand them. And if somebody has questions, please reach out to Bill or the team to ask about them if there's something more that you want to know. But we need you to advocate them, because 27 is a big number. But there's some history before. Bill told me a story when you asked for a big TO change once upon a time, but it'll pay for itself, and you were right then.
That was 2008, and there was a hiring freeze at the time. And the chair of my board, I told him that I was asking for 8 positions because I thought that we would be more efficient, we'd save money, and that we'd be providing better service. And he said, the only 2 words he said to me was good luck. And I went to the county board, I proposed the 8 positions, which again, 8 positions, because no other positions were being approved in the county because there was a hiring freeze. And the county board debated it for half an hour to almost an hour of time. And I thought for sure that they weren't going to approve it just because there were 8 new positions. And at the end, they said, how long have we been asking for a department head that would come in here with some new ideas? This guy's got some new ideas. He thinks he can pay for it. Let's make him prove it. And it was David Albrecht, chair at the time, who said, you're going to come back for the next 3 years and you're going to give us an analysis and a report on whether or not those positions after 3 years are going to pay for themselves. And I said, I'll be here. And so we did that for 3 years afterwards and showed them on paper that basically those positions actually reduced money on the levy. And I'm not going to tell you that these positions are going to reduce money, but what I'm staking my reputation on is that these positions will be able to pay for themselves and that we will be able to pay for them within the budget going forward. So I'm not saying they're going to make them, but hopefully they pay for themselves going forward. And so I think what I'm going to ask you all to do is, those of you on the county board, is that I know people are going to get confused with this number of positions and then assuming that we're raising the county levy by this amount of money, by millions of dollars of levy. And I would hope that you guys would say, no, that's not what they're saying. They're saying they need new positions, but they're covering almost all of it with changes in their budget, new Medicaid revenues, less expenses, and only $75,000 is new levy for all of these positions. So I think if they understand that, maybe they'd be more likely to not be against
Where does it say that in here? I have to know where it says that.
Right here, this. That has. Proposed.
This sheet, got it, thank you.
Yeah, cause there are some levy funded positions throughout the county that were denied, on ask. And some of those will come up.
I get a few good.
Okay,
I know that.
all right.
All right, Larry, I listened to your speech pretty much on last county board meeting, and you know,
Yep.
I just expressed that, you know, I wasn't too pleased with the statement of the chairs not being on the budget, whatever. But, cause I've never as the chair on the budget meeting have ever told Bill how to do a budget. You know, I'm always there for information, just to see what. But I guess after looking at this stuff today that was changed or whatever, and listening to some of your remarks, are you basically suggesting in the future that this committee or no other committee comes up with a budget until you and the department heads come up with the budget first?
Yeah, that's state statute. That's what most counties do. But there are some exceptions to that. Human services is an exception to that. And solid waste is an exception to that.
Okay.
And one of the things, the 1.8 million mark that I talked about in the county board was before, when I said zero levy, right?
Mhm.
Well, we had an increase in labor of 1.8 that you had to find, right? So that if you're at zero levy and 1.8 is where you're at, you either have to find 1.8 million in revenue or you have to cut $1.8 million in services to hit that target. So what happened during that conversation was that got brought out as a $1.8 million cut to human services, right? So when we were having these conversations as department heads and my administration team, as we're going through budget, we'll see some where there's room and some where there's not. And I don't get the whole picture until the very end. So I can't make any promises in those rooms or promises or promises that aren't rooms. And I wanna know your crazy ideas. You know, I wanna know in your perfect world, what is your, if money was not an object, what is your perfect thing? So it wasn't and I could see how it seemed as I was trying to make sure chairmans weren't there. And I wasn't trying to block that, more so than I was trying to say, all right, team, get together, come in here and tell me your crazy dreams and tell me your worst nightmares too. Because there's some levy limitations that we'll be facing, though. There may be some cuts that we're gonna be facing here soon, that we have to go the other way. So what are your vital organs? Let's figure that out. So it's not a process that I maybe I'll continue, maybe I won't. A lot of counties don't do that. A lot of the other executives don't do that. I'm not saying I'm not open to that. And I think the further we get into priority-based budgeting, because we're not there yet this year, but the further we get into that, the further we see how this all fits together and we tear down the silos and create one farm, I'd welcome that back. So.
But I guess then, do we still continue our public hearings? Do we still do our budget
So in our
sessions or
case,
whatever?
I think sometimes when John is speaking, just so everybody understands, when John's speaking, he's speaking about his general policy of what he was trying to do and why he was trying to do it. And then I also know in the back of my mind, John isn't taking the time to say, except for human services, except for solid waste. He's just making a general statement. And so I know when he's speaking, I could interrupt him and say, John, you know that he was, and he'll go, I know that, of course. So basically when John says it, I know that he's speaking generally.
Okay.
And then he also knows that we have a state statute that we have to operate under, that we are required to present a budget to John.
So then our process won't change.
No, I don't see your process changing.
I don't
We'll
think so.
still be
I
doing
don't-
proposed budget.
Yes, you're still gonna do,
Right.
we're still gonna do a proposed
Yeah.
budget, we're still gonna do the hearings, you're still gonna get a
Yeah.
chance to do it. And what makes it, but what John is speaking to, I think, is other departments and what he'd like to see as a general practice.
Right.
In terms of, and I'll say this, I appreciate that John would like to, let's say I had a board, which I've never had. Let's say I have a board who's basically, I know is telling me, don't spend any money, don't ask for any new positions, don't do this stuff. I've never had that happen
Yeah,
here in this
same.
board,
Yeah.
so please don't take this as what I've heard. But let's say I did have a board like that. Maybe I would like a couple of minutes to talk to John about maybe a couple of positions that I'd like to see happen in the budget, even though my board would tell me, no, don't tell them about any new positions, don't ask for any new money. It would be freeing for me as a department head to be able to speak to
Right.
John frankly. And so I think in the spirit of that, I think John was trying to give an opportunity for us as department heads to have a private conversation with him about what we thought apart from our committees. And not that I get a chance to talk to John often, so I'd probably bring it up anyway, even if I felt that. But John was trying to give something new to the budget process that I don't need, but maybe some other department heads felt like they needed. So, and again, our budget process isn't changing. We're gonna keep doing what we're doing.
Fine.
And if John said, like, when he has his meeting in August, if he said he'd prefer that all of you not be there, including you, maybe he says that someday and then I'll pass that along to you, but I think Harold was there the whole time. Harold heard the whole process. I don't even think he asked a question.
And we've never directed him how to do it.
And Harold's never directed anything. So, I mean, I haven't had that experience.
Right.
But I think John, again, he is the
But we're not-
supervisor of all of us department heads. He is the person that's heading us. And so I think he was trying to make a little bit of a change in the budget
General
process for
statement
all
to
of
everyone.
us.
Well, let's say a department comes to me with 3 new position requests, right? And I say it's really tight and I'm gonna deny those. And then the chair goes to the board and said he cut 3 positions. Well, I didn't cut 3 positions, they never existed, right? If they didn't exist in the first place, that's not a position cut. So it's really letting the team get together, okay, how can we put together a budget that makes sense for Winnebago County? How can we put together a budget that gives us the best outcomes? I think one of the things that we're doing with these new positions is we're trying to make sure that we're getting the people that are interwebs right now to try to get them stable, because that's going to help us in the future. One of the reasons we're trying to make sure that all these kids are being taken care of, get the services, so that we can break that cycle. Because if we don't, long-term, we're gonna have a heck of a lot more people in our services if we don't get it done right now. So again, that was part of the process. And sometimes it's hard for me to have those conversations. So again, I understand if I disrespect people, that was not my intention. I apologize.
So we'll continue our process.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one question for John. How long is it sustainable that we could have a zero budget and no increase in levy and still realize that every year salaries have to keep going up and expenses from vendors and from, at some point,
Yep.
you either have to slash a whole all of the things that we do are necessary. Some necessary things that have to be slashed unless we just look and say, we have hit the wall and levies are gonna have to go up. How long is this sustainable, do you think?
Correct, it's not sustainable. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're laying the groundwork. That's why we're making sure, as a whole, we understand one county budget, why we're trying to partner with so many other nonprofits and other people, so there, at least we have people, if there's a program we can't do anymore, can't afford, we can at least hand it off to somebody. So how do we make a Damascus Road stronger to help us with that? How do we do the priority-based budgeting so that you could see what the programs are and what makes sense as a board member, what to turn the switches on and what to turn the switches off so we can make those decisions. So that's what we've been trying to do for the last year. It's what we're going to continue to do next year. So we can look under the hood and understand what these programs do. Because we are going to have to make some hard choices. It is not sustainable with levy limits the way they're going. I mean, I'll be very blunt with you. There is 1.8 million roughly and that new money coming in through shared revenue. Well, we negotiate with our sheriffs, jailers, right? Which are all unionized. Department of Corrections, bring that market out. what they gave to correctional officers, right? So we're gonna have to, we can't match, but to get close. So you're right, we are going to have to look for more money for our people, to invest in our people, because without them, imagine if we have to make the cuts and we have terrible people working for us at the same time.
Well, I'm
So,
not suggesting that people are terrible who work
Right.
for us, but we hear all the time, the nurses at Parkview aren't
Yep.
making what the nurses are making in Allegheny County or
Yep.
other counties nearby there. And we have whole neighborhoods closed because they can't pay for. And I'm still saying, at what point do you say, we have to increase the levy? Do you see yourself ever saying that?
we can't, we're statutorily locked in levy limits. That's-
Ever?
Yes.
We are at 100% minus 250,000. Last year I put 250,000 off, because I wanted wiggle room for two reasons. If there's a reason we need to go up by 250,000, we can do that. And if we ever make a miscalculation, which I think happened in 2000, then you go over your tax levy, you get a slap on the hand. Next time it's not so nice. So we are taxed to the max minus 250,000.
Okay.
So we can't go up.
Limits, yeah.
Right.
And it never, ever, ever, ever.
Unless the legislators do something.
Oh, okay. All right.
The only tool that we don't have in Winnebago County that other counties have is sales tax.
Sales tax.
Yeah.
That's another tool
We're one of
for
four.
trying to work on the budget.
No, I thought just another one just did, it, so it went down.
Winnebago, Racine, Waukesha, and Manitowoc.
Manitowoc.
Yep.
Yeah. Four.
Four now?
Yeah,
Four, yep.
because one just did it.
Yep.
Five, yeah. All right. Any other?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Questions, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks for
Yeah,
coming.
we're
We're
Thank
gonna
you, John.
expect some baby
I got-
pictures.
Some baby pictures, all right. I'll bring some, she's a lot cuter than I am, I can tell you that.
I'll come for pizza.
All right.
We need some pictures on the screen.
On the screen, some big
Yeah.
ones. All right, I'll bring some pictures of Winnie.
All right.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, John.
All right, moving on then, approved minutes of the September 6, 2023 Human Services Board meeting.
I approve the minutes.
Motion was made to approve, is there a second?
Second.
There's been a second made, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes have it. Accept the minutes of the September 11th, 2023 ADRC committee.
I move to accept the minutes of the ADRC committee.
Harold moves, is there a second? Karen? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes have it. Inpatient institutional placement stats.
Okay, so our usual set of graphs, and I think in order to kind of move the meeting along, you can go through the pages. Basically, we're looking in good shape on page 1, which is child welfare. Turn to page 2. We're actually looking pretty good with inpatient admissions to hospitals, adults on the top. Didn't come up too much in the last month, and kids are staying stable. That's good. And if you look at page 3, our numbers for
Security tension.
security detention is down. Foster care numbers are stable, and back page is family kinship care placements, and they're stable as well. So I think overall a good report. I don't see anything out of place. Numbers are stable. We are still expecting we will have some RCC placement costs going up by the end of the year, but they haven't happened.
And just to say, like you guys, we came to that meeting and we said 5 or 6, every day we do that, we're always working to get the kid out.
Good.
So like,
Yeah.
just to let you guys know that's why it doesn't get this, like it is, we may have at one point had 4 going, but maybe we try to get one out, find one that doesn't need to go, we come up with some other option in the interim. So every day we're always working on that, so that's why it changes.
And kudos to Annette and her
Yeah,
staff.
really.
It hasn't happened yet, so that's great.
Question, I think for Heather. Missy is still under you and she's doing fine and doing well, I hope. Good, thank you. It's
Actually, it's,
That was
Beth,
No, it's,
She's in long-term care now,
yeah.
family care system.
okay. Thank you.
she's a family. Okay,
All right, financials, Bill again.
that's me again because Janet is on vacation, a much deserved vacation. And she's got her usual sheets. The first one is the number sheet. And everybody can read. I think the bottom line that everybody wants to know is on the bottom, not the percentage, but the one right to the left of the percentage number in the far lower right-hand corner. she's projecting about 2.8 in surplus. It was about 2.5. I still think that number, she still thinks that maybe by the end of the year, depending on how things work out, it'll probably be around 2.5 is what she's thinking at this point. It could be a little worse if we get more placements, could be a little better if we don't, so that's where we are.
How come labor says false? That means not right?
Labor false means, it should say unfavorable.
Unfavorable?
Because we are over
Oh, yeah.
on, our labor, and that is due to all the changes we made in the labor due to the increases that the county board passed. And so the decision was that they would wait until the end of the year and just put money into it as they needed to, as opposed to kind of mid-year.
I was wondering what it said false.
It says false, it should say unfavorable.
Unfavorable.
So technically, could we be using some of the possible surplus to cover that?
Oh, yeah, so even if we remain over in labor, overall, we're still gonna have a surplus.
Cause it's only August, so we didn't.
But why labor is categorized in its own category is that we can't move monies
From labor.
from any of these four categories to another category to make up for it.
Yeah.
So basically, if this remains, there will be a shortfall in labor, and that it has to be adjusted. And what we're understanding from HR right now is that they're monitoring these and that they will make a request to move monies into this to fix it at the end of the year for all the
Some kind of budget
departments.
transfer.
Yeah,
From I believe the general fund.
okay, because you can't even take it from the surplus.
We can't, so if we want to
And
take
move it
it
up to
from
labor.
operating expense to fix it, we would have to author a resolution
Yeah.
to you and then through the county board to fix it. So rather than do that, they want us to monitor it, and they want to just do one resolution at the end of the year
General fund.
from the general fund to fix all of these. That was what I understand.
So our 2.5 million would go into the general fund and then,
Right, and they would author a resolution to fix all of the
All the
overages.
shortfall.
They think that's more efficient than one department at a time doing it, which may well be. Otherwise, you'd have a lot of different resolutions from a lot of different departments. Because they're all gonna be over. Because we didn't budget for those changes in the pay.
I just think it's in here, but
Oh, yeah.
it's here,
Yeah.
it's here.
Objected to,
But yeah, that's not how we do business.
Alright.
You're gonna say nothing again.
Okay, and so this one with the graphs, you guys can read those over. I don't think anything unusual there. It does bounce from month to month on how much expenses. She's got the gold lines there. And I look at them and I note them, but I always ask Janet, do we have a problem? And she says no, and I go, okay, good, so we don't have a problem. So as far as I'm concerned, we're basically on target. Nothing is unusual here. And if you have questions, I would defer them until next month when Janet is here to answer.
I would say that I think I prefer the bar chart better than a pie chart, because it says no, the pie chart's gonna replace the line chart, I think, or line, not bar, line.
You like the bars? I'll tell her you like the
this
bars.
one better?
Okay,
Yeah, the pies, yeah.
all right,
Any
so that's
questions
report
on
unless I can try to answer them.
Alright. Elevator working yet?
Elevator is not working yet. We are on week 6 right now. And the latest problem, which I talked to Mike Elder about today, is that the inspector came through and said the way in which we have the fire alarm set up is incorrect for the new code. And that there needs to be, I'm gonna call it an intermediary device between part A and part B that has to be there, which wasn't there. So now we had to order intermediary part,
How long that can take?
which we are waiting for intermediary part to arrive, in which case then they can install the intermediary part for A and B to talk to one another or do something that then they will pass, that then they will approve the elevator for operation. What Mike Elder told me is that they aren't going to pass the elevator to operate until such part is installed. So we are now waiting for that part that neither the county nor the vendor knew was needing to be there until they did the inspection. So we can't use the
So
elevator.
it's there, it's ready to go.
And it
because we
works,
could
but
step
do
in
we
The
and say,
elevator is there, and if we press the button and it actually was activated, it would work. It's just that we need a special.
part.
and
need a
no
special-
one knew we needed a specialized fire alarm thing.
I asked Mike Elder that like 3 times this morning, and he
Yeah.
goes, nobody knew that was a thing until
Otis did,
the.
Otis
inspector-
didn't know.
Otis did probably, Otis the elevator.
So they had to order a part. They hope that it'll get here in the next 2 weeks. They hope that they can install it and that they can get the inspector here to inspect it, approve it, and then we can operate. And I said, I pray to God that our 1925 elevator in the other part of our building continues to work for another couple weeks. Cause I said we would have to shut down the entire building in operations pretty much, or I don't know how we would comply with the Americans with Disabilities
Yeah,
Act
you
by not having an
That's
operation.
what I have to carry them all upstairs.
So, we would be in a world of hurt. I told Mike Elder, I said, if this ever happens in the future, I hope that there's a better plan than 14 months worth of wait
Yeah.
for the elevator to get.
Didn't have to wait that long for the courthouse, did they? That got fixed right away.
People
didn't
that
have
are
to-
working at it now, when this is all done, we'll have some professionals to be able to take on from here, not where we have an issue 5 years from now. Oh, we don't know how to do this, we have to start
So
with
we don't
somebody
know,
else.
well, hopefully.
Yeah, they're gonna know, I mean, you know.
Well, one would
They
think
put
that
it in,
it's
yeah.
part of some building code, and so to know that nobody knew about this is somewhat
The
disappointing.
elevator they replaced the old one with is what they call, I would call it a generic elevator, meaning that no one elevator company will have control of the parts. So everything that they've built into this elevator has completely interchangeable parts on the market, which means that if any other part now breaks down from now on, they don't have to wait to go to a specific company for a specific part. They can replace anything that they need to replace with any part that is interchangeable. So I think that's gonna be an advantage to the county, is that we won't have to deal with one
That's good.
proprietary source.
I'm gonna ask that somebody make a note in the file though, for the next time this happens.
Yeah,
about
really.
The fire
The fire-
alarm system.
Yeah,
I'm assuming when you build something, it has to go to, you have to apply for a building permit. So you do you have all these plans and you submit the building permit and nobody looks at it and realizes it's missing a fire alarm thing.
until they come and inspect it.
Right.
Yeah, but don't they expect it as you go? I mean, I.
Why do you have a building
It
permit?
was, what Mike told me was it's a relatively new change in the law, and I don't know if they didn't know about it or if they just felt that it wasn't going to be something they needed to comply with. There was something that happened that neither the company predicted was going to be a concern or the county knew about. So they said, we ordered the part, we're just waiting for it. As soon as it gets here, we're going to put it in. And then we're going to have it re-inspected, hopefully same day. And then hopefully we can get operational same day. So their rough estimate now is 2 weeks.
All right,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Does it
Okay.
come with a
So-
parachute now when it shoots out the top?
And more
Or
money.
we have to get, or we have to buy extra?
Hopefully we'll have an elevator by Christmas.
Have less.
All right.
All right.
Are we gonna have a ribbon cutting and everything?
We should have like cake and.
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Other stuff like hallelujah.
A grand opening.
That's right, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, moving on then. Renee, what do you got?
Just a couple of things is, Bill and I, mostly Bill so far, and now the logistics parts happen, so that's me, is we're bringing, mental health first aid training, countywide. So when
Very good.
Bill and Larry, you were there too
Yeah,
in
very
NACO?
good. I loved it.
Yeah, so they were at the NACO conference in Texas over the summer. Many of them attended this training. It's a 90-minute presentation, you know, with time for questions and answers. It was basically about how to recognize when people are struggling in the workplace. It's aimed for businesses and workplaces. You know, what to do about that, you know, how, give you a couple of questions, you know, how to check in with people, even if they're like, oh, no, I'm fine. And maybe just a, well, maybe not fine, and how do you get at that? For those of us, who do this kind of work all the time, that comes pretty second nature to us, but, we have a lot of folks, countywide that, like, I don't wanna talk to anybody about how they're feeling or what might be bothering them, and so, Bill and I just met with the presenter this morning, and we're bringing it next month already, so.
8 and 9.
November 8th and 9th, and so we wanna offer, we're planning to offer 3 sessions, both days, and it's, to catch as many people as we can, it'll be on Zoom, and, so anyway, we're working on that, trying to get that rolled out. And then the other thing, just to keep you in the loop, a while ago, I talked to you about an incident we had in Neenah where one of our clients showed up, wielding a knife, and so out of that came it's called the after action report of just some recommendations, what worked, what didn't. Here's what we think you guys could do a little better. So, Bill and I met with a number of other department heads. John and Ethan were there as well, because we really, there's our building and Oshkosh building. Heck, we're in 5, 6 locations now. Sure, each department has their building, but more on a county-wide level, like, how are we approaching safety? What is your practice, regardless what building you're in? Are we practicing drills? Do we have designated evacuation routes? And just from the larger scope, what are we doing countywide? So it's just the tip, of the iceberg, but just keep you updated on that. We haven't forgotten about that, and it'll be ongoing. Those discussions and changes will be ongoing. Yeah, so that's it for now.
Any questions?
One question it's off the topic, so I don't know if I'll get in trouble for doing that or not, but if you could sometime, because I've had tons of people reach out to me about the day by day and all the people in the park across the street, okay? And I spent lots of time over there, we're doing it back then. And the only thing that I noticed about it is that from the day they all go out the street to when they come back, that time, it would seem to me, and people I talk to, I talk about bicycles being there, people harass people. Now they're starting to get tense. They're doing more stuff out there, which we don't want cities to happen.
But day by day are supplying some of the canopies.
Okay, but the question I have is, to me, even sitting in the day by day, is that time between they go out there and then they go home, or they come back at night? In that time, they don't have anything to do. And again, to me, just me, that you would think there'd be hours that they could be bettering themselves than sitting out there and arguing with each other. And police are there a lot now lately, because I do the celebration lights right there, and I'm right there where it's happening all the time. And I just feel there must be something more we can do to educate them. When I asked day by day, they said some of the people are handicapped, don't want to go too far away. I look, 3/4 of them are not handicapped, they're just hanging there, okay? But it just seems like it's a waste of 8 hours of their time where they could be improving themselves or helping themselves. So I guess all I'm asking is are we doing everything possible we could do as a city and a county?
I talked to Adam, who's the program director there, whatever.
Okay.
And he says, you gotta remember, the day by day warming shelter isn't a 24-hour operation. It's still only at night. It's still only emergency situation. They do have some people who have the beds there by the month or whatever, and those people can participate in programs and do some whatever. He says the reason why they sit across the street, and some of it is to do it, they don't want to go too far, but the people want to stay in groups because they feel safer in groups than 1 or 2 people out all over, whatever. So he said, and the other thing is where they are on that curb or whatever is public space. There's really nothing that, the police can't do it because it's a public.
All that I understand. That's not what I'm saying. I saw it, I heard, I talked to them all. But all I'm just thinking, it's like if I had my kid, I go to work in the morning and he's sitting in his bed, and I come back at 6 and he's still sitting in his bed.
Right.
It's that time period seems to me like a waste that I should have been finding something for him to do, or are we doing? So the point I'm making is the day by day, they say that 2 hours of the day, they have classes from. But that's only 2 hours. If some.
Those that want to participate, they don't have to.
That's only 2 hours, but are we doing anything else to improve? Otherwise, it just seems to me
Well,
it's 8 hours of waste.
They are directing some of them that's in their government, they're saying that the Union Street place is open.
State Street?
State
Yeah.
Street.
No, and then some go there too.
Yeah, and some go there, that's.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
just be aware of it. because since I've been watching it, and I've been doing this for almost a month now, it started at 2, 4.
Oh, yeah.
I think today there was 17 or 18
Yeah.
there, and then 3 or 4 other cars pull up and they just hang out. So it's growing. Okay, and then when I ask day by day, they swear that it's not people coming from out of town to try to test it. It's all the people we had. I can't believe all of a sudden we have that many that we didn't have before. The day by day when they were in the church, they had 25 spots and they didn't have it full ever.
But I'll tell you,
Okay,
96% of the people that come day by day women's shelter are from Mayo County. They're not from Appleton, they're not from Green Bay, they're not from Fond du Lac. 96% of the people are from this area. That's what they say. But the thing is, but you can't make the people do something.
no, I'm not.
I mean,
I'm
you
just
can, you
saying
can
that-
offer them, but you can't make them do it. Most of them just like to sit over there all day long.
So, okay, so then the result is don't do that, let it go.
Well, the day by day is trying to do stuff, but you
They
can't.
can't do anymore. I'm just wondering if there's anything else we could do or offer, or, I don't know. You know, I'm just asking, because it just seems it's growing and it seems more and more people, and we're not too far from a cold. And then we'll have, you know, I mean, just, you know, does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
I feel like there's something should be done or extra, or encouragement, or talk to them, or hang with them or something, but I could be wrong. But that's all, I just
But
brought it up.
the program director is out there almost every other day talking with me.
Okay.
So I haven't said
Yeah.
anything yet, but I'll try to answer Ralph's thing. That, you know, and I've said this before, homelessness is sort of the great area of social services Wisconsin that nobody has been assigned to do. So it falls on churches, voluntary organizations, nonprofits to do something about homelessness. Personally, I think it's a shame that not any agency has been assigned really to address it. It isn't under Human Services umbrella. Although we deal with people who are homeless, but they have to have a service need that we actually do help them with. But if they're homeless and we don't serve them in any other way, we don't have a direction to serve them. So the hard part is, so can we do more? Yes, but we will then go off of our mission. And the question is, and some people will think it's a good use of county dollars, and other people will think it's not a good use of county dollars to go into another area of help and service that we don't have a mission to do, that we don't have a contract or an obligation by the state to do it. So to it, yes, I mean, if this is to move in that direction, we could do it, but we're gonna have to do it with a resolution, and we're gonna have to do it with dollars, and we're gonna have to do it explaining to the board that we really are now starting to get into providing service in an area where we've never done that before. And we might, in the case of day by day, they don't really want us, Human Services, to necessarily be involved with them. And I made that pretty clear. So I don't know.
I know that they've tried to direct a lot of time to the mental health place on the Union Street there, it's on State Street there, and they say, well, that's too far to go. It's a block and a half. I don't want to walk that far. Most of them, they just don't want to do anything.
So it's not that we don't want to, Harold, it's just that I don't see a clear path for us other than the county board and this committee directs us to get more involved with the homeless. And then I'm gonna be asking questions like, okay, what do you want us to be doing? How far do you want us to go? And what monies are we gonna put toward it? Because it's not directly in our statutory mission to do that.
Right.
And I'm okay with doing it. I mean, it's a great unmet need. It's just that we gotta go into this with our eyes wide open about, okay, this is a brand new area, not mandated. We're gonna start doing it. If we start doing anything, we're gonna have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So what do you want us to do? And I'm all ears. What do you want us to do? Tell me what you want to do. Let's pass a resolution. Let's move in that direction. We'll do it.
But I was even surprised because I said, what happens to, because they're still turning away people. So they're trying
They have a long waiting
maybe,
list.
well, they're not that many, but they're probably about 10 a night or whatever. You know what I'm saying? What happens to them? They say the thing is, they all get a meal, no matter if they get a bed there or not. They all get a supper, they all get a breakfast, and they give them a sleeping bag.
It goes where?
What they can take out if they,
Outside?
well, if they can't sleep inside, you give them at least to keep them warm. They can't freeze.
They have emergencies. What I
Yeah.
understand is
Or they put
they
them in a
have
hotel.
50, but they have space by the fire department for up to 65 in an emergency. After that, they have no more space.
Right.
So that's where we.
But they feed them though.
No, I know they feel.
They all come in, they can
And then-
shower and.
And again, I found out that I didn't know before, I just thought it was like a place to stay overnight at. They have 30, 60, and 90-day tenants that stay there, they live there. And then they can't be in the house during the day, they have to go outside.
So it's a lot of things unless they're enrolled in a group.
Huh?
Unless they're enrolled in a group.
But again,
Yeah.
that wasn't the whole point, the point is just, I
Can we
see
do
that.
more during the
Is there
day?
anything we can do, or if you tell me that we can't without resolution,
Oh.
then I guess, but it's growing. And I mean, the people are more making comments on it more, people are complaining, people are on them. If we don't, it's gonna get out of hand, then you're gonna have trouble doing it later on, to me, because the way
You
it's
gotta have the
going
money
on.
to do it. And where are you
I
gonna do it?
know, I know,
Yeah.
I know there's some.
I know.
I can say.
I know.
No, but I'm just saying, before I took this job, I didn't know the homeless situation was like, I didn't know downstairs in that church. It just amazed me how they could have been operating all these years for that. It's unbelievable. And now it's really great, but now it's over the top now. It's gone way, so, but I just feel
But
bad.
that was another thing I said, well, I didn't see all those people hanging around St. Pete's when they had it over there. I said, yeah, there was groups that were hanging around,
And I know you say that,
so that you can see them more.
and you said something about it's too far to go. When it's lunchtime, they go someplace to eat and then they come back.
Oh, sure.
So that doesn't kind of
Oh,
jive, they
sure.
can't go somewhere to me, because I see them leave, then all come back, so.
Salvation Army,
Anyway.
yeah.
So, anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get
That's
into that,
okay.
I just wondered if there was anything else we could do, you told me.
All right, director's report, looks like we
Okay,
talked about a few of
so
these
I
things.
bullet pointed these so I could talk about them today. And that was before I knew that John was gonna be the presentation. So we've covered bullet point number 1. Number 2, departmental strategic planning process. We have been developing 5-year strategic plans all along. And we are now a little bit late on developing our 23 to 28 5-year plan. And so we're just now starting to work on it. So I assume that we won't be done with our 5-year plan until 24. But basically, it's an exercise that we do with internal folks and that we present to you when we kind of come up with it. It's kind of helping our staff to understand what to focus on over the next 5 years and how to implement the budget processes that we put in place in the new position. So it's gonna be the focus on that I've kind of thought about for the strategic planning process. One of them is, how can we do better at sharing our common resources, either inside of our department or with other departments that are like us? So it's kind of the challenge is, are there ways that we can cross-train our staff so that when some of our departments are busier than expected and some departments are not as busy, that we might be able to share resources amongst ourselves or with like departments. So for instance, public health or Parkview or veterans, if they were short-staffed, is there a way that we can use some of our departmental staff to help them in the short run? Not all parts of those departments can we help them with, but maybe some of them we could share resources going forward. And this is kind of in preparation for if budget gets tight in the next 5 years, if staff gets more scarce in the next 5 years, how can we use our staff better to be able to share resources across our departments? And that's kind of the goal. So we will be informing you as we develop the 23-28 budget or a strategic plan that will kind of bring you and hopefully include you in the process of developing that 5-year plan. We just we've gotten a late start because of all the stuff that's been going on. There's been a lot of crazy stuff happening since the beginning of the year. So I think we'll continue that in 24.
Thank you.
Would you consider a 24 through 29 plan?
Well, it'll end up being probably a 24 to 29 plan, yeah.
And just give it that title
Title,
though,
yeah.
so, you,
So then you're not late.
Well, right now,
late.
it would be,
and you don't have to do it again in 4 years.
there you go. Good point. We'll have a 24 to 29
you.
plan because we're not going to do 23. And then last point is, and Renee did this one too, the mental health first aid training, and just a little bit of an add-on to that. Where this came from was we had a lot of deaths, a lot of unexpected deaths in the county family. Not only county employees, but county employees' significant others, family members affected. We just had in the last month a highway department person and his wife who passed away from a motorcycle accident. Very tragic, very unexpected.
She wasn't just his wife, she was in our department.
And she wasn't in our department, she was on
She
a
was in Human
committee.
Services?
She was on Beth's committee.
Oh,
She
okay.
wasn't in human services.
Oh, okay.
So with all of that happening, John felt like we need to do some training for every staff person who wants to have some training. Both training and also kind of presented with some resources and help if they need some help. And we went to this Texas training, heard this wonderful speaker. John said, get her. And we just in the last month were able, she's a trainer of trainers. So she was an unusual person to get for training because she's so experienced. Her name is Jennifer Cox. And she did the training in Texas for all of the NACO folks. And everybody felt that she did a spectacular
Excellent
job because she presented information succinctly. And she was got us all to really examine our own stress levels and our own, what are we doing to take care of ourselves? How do we get help? What do we need to do to help other people around us? And she is going to present that training to every county employee who wants that training in November.
She gives out stuffed animals during her presentation.
She did what with them?
Prizes,
Well, for answering questions.
answering questions.
But, so we're gonna have, under 2 days, we're gonna have 3 sessions on one day and 3 sessions on another. We're gonna have them as late as 9:30 at night. We're gonna have as early as 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're gonna have it by Zoom. So anybody who wants to attend over those 2 days can have an opportunity to attend it. And I think it's gonna be money well spent. People are gonna come away with a personal connection to where they are with their stress and how they deal with it better. They're gonna have some tools to help other people deal with it better. And so we are just now trying to figure out where we're gonna have it because Coughlin is busy with 7 different scheduled events on both days. And so we're probably not gonna be able to use Coughlin. We're gonna have to find another space. So we're looking for another space right now, but it is coming. And if you all would like to attend, I believe there would be enough space for you as
Is the expo
I was just gonna say, have the expo, yeah.
Well, the problem with the expo is it's not really set up well for audiovisual purposes.
Oh, expo.
And so I will tell you, we are exploring a couple of options, one with the university and
Oh, yeah, you
and two with the convention center downtown. So we hope to get one of those 2 venues. And we know that the Nashua people will have to drive. But they could also attend by Zoom if they wanted to. But we really thought we need to find a venue that's really audio visual set up because she needs that. We need that for Zoom as well because we're going to do a professional Zoom, meaning that we're not going to just do a little owl like we're doing now or a laptop. We're going to get some people to actually broadcast the Zoom meeting so that they can see both her well and the PowerPoint at the same time. So we're gonna get it professionally managed, I think, for those 2 days. So we're really excited about it. It's the first time it's been offered to all county employees. And we think that it's gonna benefit the county family and provide them some helpful resources and a chance to kind of connect on the training, but also, connect on it on a personal level. So that's happening in November. We'll get an announcement out. And if we can swing it, I think we can invite all of you on the board, Human Services Board, to do that. If the county board wants it all, I mean, I'm looking at Kay here. If the county board, wants to be part of that too, I think we can make that happen. I think it'll be a really important event. That's it for me. Unless there's questions.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you talk about collaborating with other departments, because before COVID, so 3 or 4 years ago, I think we were in a position, I'm so blank because it didn't go through, that we needed a part-time social worker for something. And I said, is it possible that we could have this person be working for Human Services and for the Board of Health, Wixa, whatever, and maybe Parkview. And I had all these reasons why, everybody gave me these reasons why that could never work. You cannot mix up people into different departments.
Well, you
And now
can't do it today. You can't do it today because nobody's cross-trained to do it today. But could we cross-train people to do parts of that job? So someone will say, but you can't do this piece of that job over at Parkview because you're not licensed or certified to do that piece. True, but are there other social work pieces that they could do? Are there
Okay.
we have nurses here. Public health has nurses. Parkview has nurses, but we're all trained differently as nurses. So people will have to learn in a cross-training experience to do and share
Okay.
some of those nursing.
I'm just glad to
roles.
see it happen.
So is it gonna be a complete, is a nurse working in public health gonna completely do a job here or completely do a job at Parkview? Probably not, but could we learn different roles so that in a crisis, we could help out? And I think that's what we wanna be able to do is do some more cross-training across our departments. And I think that's gonna be beneficial to the county 5-10 years from now if we think, it's gonna be hard to find employees. Money's gonna be tighter. So I think this is an option to start looking at. So we're gonna explore. Thank
Any other
you for-
questions for Bill?
Just a comment on the mental health first aid training.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly the type of thing that you would want to take away from county buildings. So I'm glad you're looking into the off-site
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
Ralph, you got anything else?
Nope, no set, thank you.
Peggy?
I'll just report that the Habitat for Humanity Rocks the Block event last week. I lose track of my days. Was a success. I painted someone's front porch
Did you?
for the morning and got it all primed up, 2 coats of paint, and it looked great after a few hours. So met some cool people along the way and
A lot of
had
people
great
participating?
conversations with the homeowner.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Cause our neighborhood here is doing Rock the Block next year in March.
Okay,
So,
Cool.
it was a good experience. I
Harold?
like those.
Yes, I don't know, respond to Bill's comment about cross-training. Many years ago, I worked in social services. I always talked, we gotta cross-train, The director even come and said, me and the other fellow, we had to cross-train in finances. Never happened. The other guy never had enough time, and the director didn't push it. So my suggestion is, I agree 100% cross-training. But let's not jump too far. Let's cross-train the people within the department first before you're gonna monkey around with our department.
I agree with that.
I heard that all my life working for the county. We gotta cross-train, and it never happens. That's it.
Hey, makes sense. Karen?
A couple of things, the last couple of weeks, one, I had 2 things. I attended, a Wisconsin Counties Association HHS conference or regular monthly or quarterly meeting. I pushed for looking into more funding for kinship care, making it more equitable to foster care. The expenses that a person would have would be the same whether you're somehow related to that child or not. And so that, was one of the things that came up. And they also talked about the child care crisis. Not that there were any big solutions, but if it's possible to write your representatives and say, we need to do something because childcare, monies that went to childcare from the government are being pulled now that COVID's over. And there are people who are not, there are childcare places that are gonna probably shut down. That's number one. Number two, I also attended a conference that was presented by Chaplain Amy Harley from Lincoln Hills Copper Lake. She's the chaplain there. She talked about the broken children who arrived there. She talked about a child who murdered his abusive stepfather, was sentenced to 1 year, and he felt incredible guilt that he thought, I killed him with my bare hands. I should have gotten a bigger punishment. My thought was, he was abusing you and your mother. Seems like self-defense. I didn't question it. And he kept acting out in the facility to make his sentence longer because he felt like he needed more punishment. That's just one example of many kids she talked about. She is forbidden by state law from writing kids who leave Lincoln Hills, Copper Lake and go on to either adult facilities or are released into the population. She can't contact them again. I thought that was kind of sad. She talked about the Bible that the foundation that I sit on, called the Epic Bible. It's a graphic novel form created by Marvel DC comic artists. And I got them the first grant for that. Then Supervisor Haran got even almost double that grant and has gotten more for them. She talked about handing a kid a Bible and who wanted more, more information. She handed him a Bible and he says, "What do I do with this?" She says, "Well, you read it." He says, "I can't read this." She says, "These are kids who are still in the, they haven't gotten into chapter books. They're still reading picture books." And so the Epic Bible has made a big difference in their lives. And it was a great presentation that she did. I could go into a lot more, but a lot of it was on the religious side of it because of course she's the chaplain. But she is making a difference with those children and has a good rapport with them. And those are my two reports.
Karen, can I ask you how many children that are there has she baptized?
160. 160. When they ask to be baptized, she says, "We can do that. We first have to ask your parent or guardian." And she gets their permission. And yeah, 160 baptisms. I don't think there are many clergy anywhere who can claim 160 baptisms in that short a period of time. So thanks for asking, Supervisor Haran.
Thank you for letting me.
Oh, no problem.
It was a moving and informative presentation. Thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we're done. See you next month.
Okay, see you next time.
November 6th.
Yeah, is that the
In
first